Years ago today, a gunman entered a series of spas in Cherokee and Fulton counties and murdered 8 people. Here are the victims. 6 of them were Asian women. Channel 2's Richard Elliott is live at the state capitol where lawmakers paused to remember this day. Richard?
Yeah, we were here at the Capitol that day 5 years ago, actually monitoring it as it was happening across 2 different counties. It didn't end until troopers arrested that alleged gunman. It played out across our TV screens 5 years ago. First, a shooting at a Cherokee County spa left several dead. Then later, another shooting at 2 spas in northeast Atlanta. 8 people died that day, 6 of them Asian women. Hours later, troopers arrested Robert Aaron Long. A Cherokee County jury convicted him of murder. He's still awaiting trial in Fulton.
And every year around 3/16, the grief returns like it happened yesterday.
Monday, lawmakers gathered at the Capitol to remember those killed on that day. The murders happened as the U.S. saw an upsurge in violence and anger aimed at Asian population. But Johns Creek Democrat Michelle Au said their stories are an American story and should be remembered.
Those we lost were people who were deeply loved and needed, and whose stories embodied a vibrant picture of the America those of us who grew up in the immigrant community know well.
Dunwoody Democrat Long Tran said those murders marked a turning point in the Asian community.
A tragedy that changed the course of our API community, not just only politically, but in our community advocacy and how we approached serving and protecting our community.
Al says they won't forget those who died as they wait for that second murder trial to begin.
On this 5-year anniversary, many will remember how they died, but they should be remembered for how they lived.
Now remember, a Cherokee County jury convicted that man of murder, but in Fulton County, he's also charged with a hate crime, and prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. We are live at the state capitol. Richard Elliott, Channel 2 Action News.
All right, well, tomorrow marks 5 years since the Metro Atlanta spa shootings when a gunman killed 8 people, including 6 women. And that attack sparked a nationwide conversation about safety and hate against Asian Americans. 11 Alive's Galat Malamat joins us live with how community members and leaders are now marking this tragedy. Galat?
The moderator of this evening's event in Gwinnett County says for so many Asian Americans, March 16th, 2021 is not just a memory, but something people continue to carry to this day. The conversation was about remembrance, but also how to heal and be stronger moving forward. 5 years ago, shootings at 3 spas claimed 8 lives and left a lasting impact on Metro Atlanta's Asian American community and beyond.
It truly ripped a hole through the fabric of Asian Americans throughout the country.
A hole people like Bonnie Yoon with the March 16th Commemoration Committee is trying to repair.
The services that we need, that we can't be ignored or compartmentalized as just this model minority of Asian Americans.
Yale Xiao is thinking about Feng Daoyu, a fellow Chinese American killed in the shootings. He says 5 years ago, he helped organize her memorial. Sunday, he came to Gas South Theater in Duluth, where panelists discussed how to continue to heal and build a stronger and safer Asian American community.
People tend to forget about things. The history, people, everybody busy. This 5 years event really bring us back to memory, bad memory, and also to consolidation, after that, the community getting together.
Stephanie Cho, the former executive director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice Atlanta, says stories of women who still work in spas are lost.
We're not doing anything on immigrant labor work enough. And it's again like uplifting people that are not seen, which is the whole point of this.
That March 16th Commemoration Committee member tells me more than a dozen AAPI legislators have been elected to the General Assembly in the last 5 years, something she views as a sign of the community growing and standing up for itself.
All right, Galat, thanks a lot for the update there. By the way, Robert Aaron Long, he has already pleaded guilty to killing 4 people in a Cherokee County spa and was sentenced to life in prison. And he is also facing 19 charges in Fulton County.
Here in Georgia, in partnership with the Asian Justice Movement, we continue to lead the conversations and remain steadfast in demanding justice, recognition and support for the victims and families of March 16, 2021. Over the past 5 years, our community has fought to break the silence, raise awareness, and ensure that the lives lost are never forgotten. And each year, as you look around the banners over the past 5 years, you can see the messaging, you can see the sponsors, you can probably think back to the memories of us being out there on the streets or at different facilities with the families. In 2022, year one, our theme was Break the Silence, Justice for Asian American women, Asian women. We honored the victims and amplified the calls for justice, and let us never forget their names. In year two, in 2023, our theme was Always With Us, Asian Americans Rise Against Hate. Their memory continues to guide our fight for legislation and community protections. In 2024, year three, our theme was Stand Together. We stood alongside other families from other states, communities, survivors, and victims that were subjected to hate across this country. And last year, 2025, year four, our theme was Leading with Compassion, as we recognize the resilience and leadership within our community, even amid grief. And this year, our theme is Healing from Within. And on this 5th anniversary, we gather to honor our community's strength, resilience, and commitment to care for one another. And at this time, I would like to ask all of our core members and event organizers of March 16th, Day of Remembrance Alliance, to please stand up and join us here in the front to be recognized. We have City Councilwoman Sarah Park. Asa Kisani.
Awesome.
T Ashley. Bonnie Yu, who could be here with us today. Wenhee Shin. Michelle Khan. Heejin Ko. Jungwon Lee. Tina Vo. Representative Long Tran. And our volunteers and team members from the Hub, Kevin, Lou, and also James. Would you like to
Together, we gather today to commemorate the 5th anniversary of the tragic mass shooting in our city that took 8 lives, including 6 Asian American women. Today, we honor and remember each of them. Park Sun-jung, Hyun Jung-ren, Kim Sun-ja, Yu Young-ae, Daniela Ashley Young Gonzalez, Paul Andre Michael, Xiaojie Tin, Tai Yu Feng. We speak their names, so they are not.
The Congressional Caucus joined us here in Atlanta. And we're so happy to have you join us here yet again 5 years later. He's definitely spoken out for the safety, dignity, and the voice of the Asian American community, and we appreciate your continuous support of our communities here in Atlanta. So now I'd like to welcome Senator Andy Kim.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. I felt it was important for me to be able to come and pay my respects to what happened 5 years ago, to the victims and families, but also this community. I remember very vividly when I first heard of the shooting. I was actually just getting my kids sorted out for bedtime. They were, I believe, at this point they would have been only 3 and 5 years old at the time, and I was giving them a bath, and I just felt my phone in my pocket vibrating repeatedly because people were sending me text messages about the news that just came out, and it was just so heartbreaking to pull my phone in my pocket and see the alert about the shooting while I'm there, trying to take care of my 2 little boys. And it just, we remember not just the shooting, but just the context of that moment, especially during the pandemic, and how much fear there was building up to that as we saw violence against our elders, we saw violence and discrimination against our own community. It was a very powerful experience for me to be able to come down just a few days afterwards, down here to Atlanta, to be there alongside many of you here, to pay our respects at the 3 sites. And then afterwards, I had a chance to be able to sit down with some of the families of the victims. And to hear from these children talking about their parents, they talked about their mother who would always show up at their house with just an enormous amount of Korean fruit. And I'm like, that's like my mom, this is exactly the kind of stories that all of us, whether we're in New Jersey or Atlanta or anywhere else in the country, we understand that bond. I remember going to the site and seeing all the flowers and the signs, and there was a sign there that just really stuck out to me. It said, Hyunjung Grant loves karaoke and makes the world's best kimchi stew. And just it's real. These are real people who didn't deserve to have their lives extinguished. These families, as I talked to them, they were grieving and just I remember one of them asked me just directly, the Korean community in New Jersey and around the world, do they know that we're here? Do they see us here? And I said, absolutely. And that's why I felt it a real mission to make sure I come back to join you today, because what I hope you take away from this is that this observance of the shooting 5 years ago, this is important not just for your community here in Atlanta, in Georgia, but it's meaningful and important for all of us around the country. And I wanted to show my solidarity to be alongside you, because we cannot forget that, but also because we know that there are continued challenges going forward. And that's something we cannot ignore. And something that I see every day as I'm in Congress. I remember right after the shooting, someone came up to me on the floor of the House of Representatives, a colleague of mine. And he came up to me and he said, put his hand on my shoulder, said, I'm so sorry for the shooting and what is happening to the Asian American community right now. It's really awful. And I said, oh, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But then they went on and said, but the pandemic's over, so don't worry, it'll all go back to normal. And I just thought that really showed just the lack of understanding. And that is a sitting member of Congress that thought that this was all just because of the pandemic. But we know it's not. We know that there was racism and discrimination before the pandemic, before the shooting. We know that it continues after that. And I see this with the challenges that we're facing right now in this country and the attacks upon pluralism and diversity that is happening, including out of the mouths of some of my colleagues who swear an oath to protect this Constitution. But they are someone that are attacking the very fundamentals of the diversity that we have, which is what fuels this hate and fuels the challenges that are out there. So we have work to do. My kids are now 8 and 10 years old. I worry about what kind of America my boys are going to grow up in. Your kids, your grandkids are going to grow up. That's what's at stake. And that's why it's so important that we don't forget what happened with these shootings 5 years ago, that we are with each other, we support each other through that as well as what is to come. And I promise you, whatever you go through as a community here, I will be there alongside you. Because we need to make sure we're building this all across our country. We stand with Georgia, we stand with Atlanta, we stand with the families of the victims. We stand together to be able to make sure that we can give our kids and our grandkids the kind of future that they deserve, a future of security, stability, safety, one that continues to embrace and recognize that we belong here. We have every bit as much right to be in this country, to be Americans as anybody else. So thank you for letting me be a part of this. Let's work together to be able to get this done. Thanks, everybody.
Shootings. I knew there was much more to the story than the media was going to report. And of course, initially they got so much of it wrong, and it's because of all the work people here did that people like me could begin to get the true story. But there are really three things I really want to highlight. One is what Senator Kim said, that these are not isolated incidents. So one thing I did in this book, so no one can ever say there's no record of it. These anti-Asian violence incidents go back over 175 years. And so I started the book with the Atlanta story because that's what motivated me for the last 5 years to finish the book. But most people, even in my own field, Asian linguistics, don't even know how extensive these incidents have been for so long. The second thing is, of course, we all remember that Jay Baker press conference. Oh, it was not racially motivated. So many of these incidents, again, they go back so long, but I was even surprised to see over and over again, you actually see the media and the police coming out and saying after the Stockton Cleveland Elementary School shooting, found out by white supremacists who was talking about how Vietnamese refugees are taking away jobs. The New York Times did a story, basically that says, initially, it was not racially motivated. So it's not just that they happen so many times. Over and over again, they always say it's not racially motivated. So again, another thing I want people to be able to point to. And the last thing though that's really important, and that's why it's so important that everyone is here, people do not know that Asian Americans, we've never just been victims. We don't just sit back and think, go back and look at the Chinese miners at Rock Springs in the 19th century. They were protesting, they were speaking up. There's a long history of protesting. People never learn. I never learned that story when I was growing up. I always thought, oh, we're just passive, minority people. So that's the last stereotype I really wanted to get to this quote. And so the quotes are actually available for the first time. It's actually not supposed to be released on April 7th, so I'm excited to make it available and to donate all the proceeds to the organizers of this event. So thank you very much.
In my hand.
You like that goat?
Yeah, that's why I'm showing him a tiger.
Oh.
That's not my real tiger.
Oh, really?
That's my fake tiger. That's my stuffed cow. That's my animal. I used to love him.
Really raised me. And I also identify myself as immigrant daughter. That's really important. And I'm also a mother to a 3-year-old girl. And I cannot thank you enough for all the work that you have been doing, both as a person living your life with your family, but also many of you guys are community caretakers and organizers. And we just really wanted it to make an opportunity for you all to have an opportunity to just slow down a little bit and then just have you feel a little bit filled up by reflections. I just wanted to share just a few grounding context of how Dr. David Kim and I designed the workshop. We designed this so that we can learn that trauma lives in our body. Just to acknowledge that it's in our body and it lives in our body. And that external and internal circumstances and conditions in which we live as immigrants continue to trigger those trauma that's in our body. And that experiencing of living in that state of trauma that we experience really hinder us from connecting deeply within ourselves. Because we're too busy trying to survive, strategize to survive, and to help others. We're just too busy doing that. So it really blocks us from connecting with ourselves and finding ourselves in the midst. So the question is that as community carers and caretakers and organizers, what are the resources and tools for us to have deep connection and care for yourself? And you can bring that back to your own community members as well. We have scaffolded a few activities as a way for us to do that. I'm doing it in the other way. Okay, so we're going to model those tools through the workshop. One more. Here we go. So we decided to call them resources. Where do we resource strength, right? One is knowledge. So Dr. Kim will come and share some knowledge around neuroscience and how trauma lives in our body. Tool or resource tool 2 is creative expression and reflection. We're gonna kind of go through a short exercise of writing and drawing. And then 3, pause, meaning we'll have like a very short break. We forget to pause and stop, right? Even this morning for the event, everybody was like running around. Everybody's just really, really busy trying to like support one another, right? And we forget to just stop and just pause a little bit. And then we're gonna do a little bit of group exercise, kind of identifying larger context, why we experience certain things. And then just at the end, we'll close out in a bigger circle for connections and rituals. And that's, okay, so before we...
Did you notice any feet in your face? Yeah. So this is interactive. This is not a monologue. This is going to be a multi-log here, right? So what did your body say? Did your body say to you that you're in a safe place? Did your body say, I'm a little cold? Did you say, I'm a little hungry? What did your body say? I'd love to hear what your body told you as Karen was doing the exercise together.
My body said, it's been a while since you've recognized me.
Oh, lovely. What else?
My body said, just relax.
Relax. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm aware that I'm doing a presentation, so I was a little anxious. So when I'm anxious, I feel it here. Do you guys feel it here when you're anxious? Yeah. So, you essentially did the body scan, so we're not going to do that again. We were running out of time, so we're just going to kind of go. And I want to say why this is so important. So, maybe a little bit background about me. I was trained in Boston, my clinical training in Boston. And Boston is a very, very psychoanalytic country. And if you know psychoanalytic kind of literature, it's really heady. It's a lot of theory, a lot of philosophy, right? So I was taught in a very formal setting to think through mental illness or mental strain. But I think in the last 5, maybe even 10 years, I think there's been a lot of shift. And we're recognizing that our mind is not the CEO of who we are. But guess what? Your body is, right? Your body is the CEO of who you are. Did you know when there is a sentence being given during throughout the day, the judges give out sentences? Did you know the time of the day that has the harshest sentence is 11 to 12, when they're really hungry, right? Our stomach has more to say about our behavior than our minds, right? So I want to emphasize over and over again that our trauma is not what happened to us, but it's what happens to our bodies. I'm sure you've probably read or heard of the book called Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk.
And what he says is essentially that, our conditioned response to our stimulus that's fearful, it triggers our nerve system. And although we can say, hey, that's years ago when that happened, but our body remembers and our nerve system work accordingly, right? So we have not just this brain, but we have three brains. We have our head, we have our heart, and we have our gut. Those are the brain that really dictates our behavior. So this is what brain looks like. I use this oftentimes when I'm doing something like this. Just think like this is your brain. This is your prefrontal cortex right here. This is your executive functioning, right? How to organize throughout the day. You need to have that. Your long, wise, you have to talk about with your family, right? What was the larger historical context? And again, I'm going to show you a book, Scott. You need to read it because that's the larger context, right? It has the history of Asian American hate crimes over the not just the Exclusionary Act, so many more that goes back hundreds of years as close to us as now, right? What's going on with the immigration policies. Those are the larger context. Right. So did you guys circle them? Did you guys talk about it? Okay. We're going to go to step 4. Okay. Recognizing our survival strategies. So our behaviors are adaptive behavior to trauma, right? I want you to start to think about ways in which you survive these conditions, right? Do you have a pretty good understanding, or do you have language of survival? I mean, oftentimes we don't. This is why this exercise is really important. How did you survive? How many identify with the word stay quiet? Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Our workshop. Yeah. Okay.
So we're going to try to have a collective voice. If you've been to a mass or synagogue or something, there is some liturgy that happens there. It's kind of be like that. Okay? So we're going to be mindful of our voices. We're going to be mindful of our collectiveness. Today we remember lives lost in the Atlanta spa shooting.
We remember.
We remember grief that rippled through our communities.
We remember.
We remember the fear many of us carried in our hearts.
We remember.
Violence tried to tell us that Asian lives are invisible.
We reject that lie.
Violence tried to tell us that Asian women are disposable.
We reject that lie.
Violence tried to reduce us to stereotypes.
We reject that lie.
Some of us felt grief.
Our grief is real.
Some of us felt anger.
Our anger is valid.
Some of us felt fear.
Our fear deserves care.
Some of us felt numbness and confusion.
Our responses make sense.
Remember that our struggles are connected to the struggles of others.
We choose solidarity.
We refuse narrative that divides marginalized communities.
We seek justice together.
We honor the complexity of our histories.
We commit to learning and accountability.
When truth is spoken and when dignity is restored.
We seek truth and restore dignity.
May our communities become a place of safety and courage.
May it be so.
feel empowered to go out to the world, right? I want to read you this radical gratitude spell written by Adrienne Marie Brown, and I just want you to just receive the words as an affirmation and as a gratitude to all the things that you have done. So I'm gonna move right there so I can read the word if that's okay. So a spell, which is like magic, to cast upon meeting a stranger, comrade or friend working for social and or environmental justice and liberation. So this is for you. You are a miracle walking. I greet you with wonder in a world which seeks to own your joy and your imagination. You have chosen to be free every day as practice. I can never know the struggles you went through to get here right now today. But I know you have swum upstream and at times it has been lonely. I want you to know I honor the choices you have made in solitude, and I honor the work that you have done to belong. I honor your commitment to that which is larger than yourself and your journey to love the particular container of life that is you. You're enough. Your work is enough. You're needed. Your work is sacred. And you're here. And I'm so grateful. Thank you for being here. Sarah, maybe thank you for bringing us together. I'll pass it to you to maybe close it out. Because this is the end of the workshop.
So, I have a lengthy announcement.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's take care of our community, ourselves, and walk together. Sorry, today's been another day that it was a little difficult for me, but my heart is warm now, and we have more events to focus, so give us a grace. And finally, thank you to many teams who helped prepare the 5th anniversary members, and to our guests, community members, and members of the media. Can't thank you guys enough for being here with us. Thank you for remembering this painful chapter in our community's history, and for standing with us on 5th
we don't have a good, we don't have any rights, you know what I mean, around it, especially in the South, given the history of slavery. And so there's so many things to work on, but those are the things I'm mostly interested in now, is really immigrant labor rights, because it's so neglected here and there hasn't been enough spotlight on it. And so I'd love to see more work on that happen in the future. And then
They're more likely to become targets, right? But with visibility can also come, an opportunity to really make a difference in a positive way. And so I just want to end with watching Carrie. Yeah, it's just so phenomenal. It's just literally the thing that person, I don't know if any of you just like, wow, she's like Alyssa Liu, but without skates. Remember that one time Alyssa Liu threw out the first pitch? She did that kind of triple axel on the baseball field. And whether it's here in Duluth or whether it's, in Italy at the Olympics, Asian women, Asian Americans are inspiring people to think about their own identity, not just Asia. I mean, so many people are like thinking about possibility and what this country is, in their own life in a different way, because this was so inspiring. And I think that's happening in this theater in so many places. I think that's where I see the hope. Sense of possibility in more expansive and transformative ways.
There's so much to be done, and I think in order for us to do it, we really can't lose 50% of the room or make this into political rhetoric. And I think that's why our Remembrance Alliance is trying to figure that way out, creating a space where people can gather and talk about what work needs to be done. And I think we're only at year 5, so as we evolve, I think more conversation and work and commitment will happen, and this will not only call people from Atlanta to rise up, but outside of Atlanta, just like you mentioned, there are going to be people that are going to come to Atlanta and the South to do the important work with us. So that gives me hope. I think that's why we have to go back to the history, like how this has been done, how it's been repeated, and things like that. And also, it wasn't really easy for Alliance Group to really work every year, coming up with the most efficient way to remember and honor the victims and family. So there was many conversation around it, but that I think this year 5 is also very important because we can all revisit that. Now I want to open this conversation to the audience. If you have questions or comments, or if you have a thought around throughout today, we would like to hear from you. And surprisingly, we're on time, so we have a good about 15 minutes to hear from you all.
Georgia, but then the 2024 election happened and a new administration came in, and all of that has been wiped out. All of that staff is gone. All those APIs working on immigrant labor, sex labor, gone. The maps that we had, gone. And so we made progress for a little bit, and now we're back behind. And I just say that to say that there's a new generation, a young generation that is trying to make those changes. We may not see them, we may not hear about them in the news, but they were trying to get the work done up until this current administration came in.
Anyone else?
Thank you for sharing that information, and it gives me kind of this, initially also I wanted to thank all of your work, whether it is in academia, scholarship, your amazing dance and choreography, and the policy work, the advocacy work. Often also I think about how do we then also ensure that we reach the public, meaning, for example, my mother who she returned back to Korea 2 years ago, but with the spa shooting, she and I never spoke on it, even though I've been working on it, public facing, that between my mother and I, it was unspeakable, because it's too painful, right? And she's an immigrant worker who doesn't have the access and privilege of language, education, and curiosity and capacity to be able to attend a talk like this. And all the work that we do, ultimately what we want is not only to empower ourselves, but to make sure and ensure that folks that you work with have access, and that laws and culture and scholarship show up for them more than anything, you know. So the translation to the public and, you know, delivery to the public, to me feels like a next step as well. We must not forget that, and I think the role of media and
Well, thank you for this panel discussion, and I can see the emotion on your faces as you remember that flashpoint in history, and I'm so glad that we're trying to give context to what was happening then, and hopefully, you know, it's not if, but it's a when something like this happens again in the future, that we're better prepared for the crisis and also have more resources to be able to deal with it. I just kind of wanted to ask all of you, including Sarah, what is next? I mean, Sarah, you ran and won a position in public office in Duluth, which is the Cape Town of Georgia, which is fantastic. Stephanie, you've been working behind the scenes since you left Advancing Justice, but the work that you've been doing, you're still in touch with you know, sex workers, and they remain invisible. And Carrie, you know, every time I see your pieces, it's so empowering for me to see, for example, a depiction of an Asian American lawyer, because I happen to be one, that fighting for, you know, the appellate rights of Vincent Chin. I was like, oh my God, I see myself in art. And Scott, for you to, you know, be frankly at the front lines of the removal of DEI in academia, where do we go from here for each of you?
For me, leave our comfort and difference and just step up in a ways that we can give back, but not just to give back, but because Georgia and South Cincinnati need an ecosystem or a safety net for us to serve and run, I think it is our time to, because the first person is always hardest, right? But I think we need more first. That will make the bench and safety net for others can do it. I think that's, for me, that's why I ran as independent at the municipality level, because I really wanted people to see public service as just another way to give back. You don't have to check all the boxes, you don't have to have money or connections or party connections or things. So I think try to kind of be that first person of many to be in a role where you can obtain your experience and share that to others, not only to the next generation, the current generation, our older generation, because I've learned that Asian American community, old generation, has this trauma that they want to break away from, but I think that sometimes gives so much boost and momentum from it too. So just live our lives with, I mean, failures will be part of it, but just live our life day by day, experience things, face trials and challenges. Think about the trials that you will face and just take it as a mission, because whatever you earn from that experience, you'll be able to share to others, so the next person will have to face trial too much. So.
5 years almost to the day this happened. What are you feeling right now?
Well, Well, the theme of the 5th anniversary is healing from within. So when the March 16, 2021 Atlanta spa shootings occurred, it truly ripped a hole through the fabric of Asian Americans throughout the country. Things had already started to really heat up because of the anti-Asian hate during the pandemic. And then when March 16 happened, Atlanta became a firestorm of dealing with the impact of anti-Asian hate. When you have 6 AAPI women killed by a shooter who claimed that race was not a factor, I think all Asian Americans were saying that cannot be true. There's just an intersection of misogyny, racism, sexualization of Asian women. And from that, really, a national movement really started to steamroll. And Atlanta started collaborating with New York, LA, Chicago, DC, to say that we must have a voice. There's really a cry for justice, that the victims, their families, really did not have a voice in how they were killed. And even now, justice still rolls very, very slowly because the killer still remains unconvicted in Fulton County. So here we are 5 years later. The community has grown. We have seen the election of more than 13 AAPIs to the Georgia General Assembly over the last 5 years, and more continuing to run for higher office. And it is that desire to give voice to the concerns of the AAPI community that I think the community has really shown how we stand up for ourselves now, that we have grown, that we have matured, and yet there's still so much pain from this event. We really do not want Atlanta and the entire nation not to forget what happened 5 years ago, when in particular the current administration tends to sweep a lot of DEI activities under the rug. But we are still here, and the victims' names still need to be remembered, they still need to be said, and that's why we continue to commemorate March 16th.
What are some of the messages that you hope people will take away from this event tonight?
We have to reflect on where we are now. I mean, part of the reason we're at this particular venue is the Atlanta Chinese Dance Company did a retrospective piece about Chinese American women and Chinatown and the intersection of assisting the suffragists to gain the right to vote, right? And that is a direct historical relationship to how Asian Americans are trying to give voice to our needs and to raise truth to power, right? And so today, while we continue with healing and trying to bring peace to our communities, we also want to make sure that elected officials, that our government, that our social services do not continue to ignore our communities. It's imperative that we speak up, that we have risen up, and I see several of our elected AAPIs here tonight because they recognize that part of their desire, their drive to represent our community is because of things that happen, the violence against our communities because of March 16th. But beyond that, even further back in history. So Asian American history is American history.
Would you say that this event and just what's happened at the theater today in general is part remembrance and honoring the victims, and then also part change, action, discussing what needs to happen so something like that doesn't happen again?
Well, the victims cannot speak. Their families have sacrificed so much. So we need to be able to speak and give voice to their need for justice and the need for justice for all of our communities. The services that we need, that we can't be ignored or compartmentalized as just this model minority. of Asian Americans. Asian Americans are a multitude, and all of us need to realize the need for services that we should be able to access, that we should be able to benefit from, that we are now actively voting. And I will say in the last few election cycles, AAPIs have begun to vote more than ever before, enough to change the outcome of certain races. And so with that, we hope that the activism continues, and we cannot forget that those lessons. Otherwise, violence will continue against our communities.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
By participating in our civic life. When communities speak up, when we vote, when we advocate for fairness and safety, we help strengthen our institutions and move our society forward. Through civic engagement, we have the power to improve our public policies, strengthen our system, and build communities where everyone can live with dignity and safety. For many Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander families, participation in the democratic process has not always been easy. Language barriers, limited outreach, and unfamiliar systems have sometimes made it difficult for our voices to be fully heard. Many first-generation immigrants came to this country focused on building stable lives for their families, often without clear pathways to civic engagement. However, when communities participate in elections, our democracy becomes stronger. When people from different backgrounds share their voices, our institutions become more representative and responsive. Civic engagement helps ensure that
On March 16th of 2021, 5 years ago today, a gunman shot and killed 8 people in a barbaric rampage near Atlanta. Their names are Soon Chung Park, Kyung Jung Grant, Sun Cha Kim, Yong A Yu, Xiao Jie Tan, Dao Yo Feng, Delania Ashley Yon Gonzalez, and Paul Andre Michaels. So let me say first, it's hard to actually believe that 5 years has passed already, but sometimes in the aftermath of a community tragedy, the passage of time can feel elastic. And the time elapsed can at once feel long, but also feel short. And the events from 5 years ago feel immediate in some moments and distant in others. And that in itself might feel distressing to many of us, because in some ways the distance from March 16th feels like distance from those we've lost when we try to keep them and their memories close. But the fact is, no matter how much time passes, there is a grief and a sense of injustice that will not fade. These were lives that were taken from us too soon. Those we lost were people who were deeply loved and needed, and whose stories embodied a vibrant picture of the America those of us who grew up in the immigrant community know well. Their lives were stories of work and of hope, of striving and dreams, and building a history in a country they came to call home. On this 5-year anniversary, many will remember how they died, but they should be remembered for how they lived. And they should be remembered for all the good they left behind, the family and the friends who love them still, and who have continued to build lives, contribute to their communities, and who have stepped up to lead. So to honor them, we should channel our grief, devote our energy, and utilize our most precious gift of time, the time they ultimately did not have, to help shape the better world that they deserved. Building that better world is a journey. It takes time, and there are no quick solutions. And nothing can bring back those we loved and lost so tragically. But we owe it to them to persevere together. We owe it to them to not let the forces of darkness crowd out the light we carry in their honor. And as we continue that long fight on this 5th anniversary and well beyond, we will remember them with love and hold close those they left behind, and honor them with the life of work we now do in ours.
Yeah, the lefty in me is like,
oh yeah,
oh,
you
put it
can
on the left
probably
side.
put the
You know
other
what?
way.
Then let's try.
Yeah, anytime.
Does that work?
I'm Brian Pang. I'm an organizer with the Asian Justice Movement, one of the organizers behind this event. 5 years ago on this day, we all saw and heard news that shocked our communities. 8 people were shot and killed in Georgia at the Young's Asian Massage, Gold Spa, and Aromatherapy Spa. The 8 people that were shot and killed included 6 Asian women. These women were targeted by the shooter, who wanted to rid himself of his temptations and blamed the spas for providing an outlet for his addiction to sex. During the press conference, a police chief declared definitively that this was not racially motivated and that the shooter was just having a bad day. At the time, those statements dehumanized the victims and humanized the shooter, which led to many in our communities across the nation to stand up, to be galvanized to speak out, and to take action to advocate for each other. Because we know that having a bad day or cutting people off when they're doing an award speech or making jokes about nails and massages, these are just excuses for bad acts and aggressions towards us. And we can't tolerate these anymore because our lives are at stake. So we're here today to commemorate the victims of the Atlanta spa shootings and all others who have experienced anti-Asian hate in all forms. The names of the 8 people who were senselessly gunned down 5 years ago are Phang Dayo, Paul Andre McCulls, Tan Jiaoji, Delana Ashley Yon, Hyun Jung Grant, Suncha Kim, Soon Chun Park, and Yong Ai Yo. Let's please hold a moment of silence for these 8 people. Is a national coalition of Asian American grassroots organizers committed to advancing the civil and human rights of Asian Americans. AJM focuses on combating racism, discrimination, and violence through advocacy, education, and community empowerment. We strive to create a society where all individuals are treated with dignity, respect, and equity. We exist to protect our community's most vulnerable, which includes our elders, our immigrants, and our service providers. We're also here to ensure that for the lives lost, those who have endured anti-Asian hate of any form, and our collective community efforts are not in vain. This year's theme for the commemoration is Healing from Within, and this builds upon the previous year's themes, which included Break the Silence, Always With Us, Stand Together, and Leading with Compassion. Healing from within is for us to look to ourselves and around us, to regroup, re-energize, and reinvigorate, to continue the fight against all the structural headwinds we're up against. More than ever before, we need to lean on each other, we need more diverse perspectives, and we need to push through to continue driving that structural change. So we thank you all for being here to remember, to reconnect, and to amplify our collective issues, our work, and our causes. Let's make sure all victims of anti-Asian hate do not die or suffer in vain. In just a few minutes, we're gonna walk a few blocks. We're gonna go down Kearney Street. We're gonna turn on California Street, up Grant Avenue, then Washington Street, and we're gonna end right here in our starting point. Shin Hong is going to lead us off with a drum ceremony.
Drum ceremony? No,
Shin Hong will drum while we walk.
And the gong.
That's right. While we walk, let's please remain peaceful. Let's remain civil, no shouting, no curse words. Please do hold up the signs if you have one. And also we're gonna make an attempt to hold the banner as well while we walk. Before we go, we have a few minutes for some folks. If you're inclined to do so, you can feel free to take the mic and share your thoughts about what this day means to you. I only ask that you limit it to 1 minute and no campaigns and no solicitation, okay? So for now, we have about time for 3 or 4 speakers, if anyone wants to share. Oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, I want to yield to Drew from KACF, who will share his words from his organization, and then we'll go to the open mic.
Thanks, Brian. Do today to avoid this happening again in the future. Because it's not a threat to Korean Americans or Chinese Americans or AAPI communities. It is a threat to our entire community. The entire Bay Area is at risk of violence like this that is either it's directed at one particular group or it's just widespread. And there's no one magic solution that can prevent this from happening. But
any communities, and also in school. So one thing we can do and trying to avoid happening is education. What I'm talking about is not only that we should be educated and talk about these things at home, in the families, in schools, in workplace, social media, and especially our politicians, and making sure that we should not be divisive. We all have to work together because we all belong, and this is our home and this is our country.
Almost there. Protest on the sidewalk. What's this? This neon sign doesn't fit there, right?